Hey everyone, this is Gary A. Swaby, and you're now listening to the Powercast, and we will be recapping Power Book 2, Episode 8, and the title of this episode is Family First. I'm here with Mr. Richard Bailey Jr. How you doing, Rich?
Doing good, Gary. What's up, listeners and viewers?
Yep, what's up indeed, and I'm also here with Miss Dana Abercrombie. How you doing, Dana?
I'm doing wonderful.
Good to hear. So yeah, this was a crazy episode, and the response has, like, from what I gather so far, the response has been pretty good to this episode. Just from talking to other people. I haven't spoken to you two extensively about the episode yet, which is what we're gonna do now. But from what I've seen other people say, it seems like, a lot of people enjoyed the dynamics of this episode. And maybe I agree, maybe I don't. We're gonna get into that. I'm gonna let you know my thoughts on it. So let's get right into this recap. And just to set the tone a little before we dive into the topics. Basically, this episode is about homecoming on the campus, and parents are showing up to for the homecoming, and then they're also interacting with the lessons and everything. And there's a big ball game, like a big basketball game as well, coming up. So that's basically just to set the tone of what this episode is about, just so everyone remembers. So let's dive into the first character that I want to analyze, and this is a character that a lot of people love. I know Richard is a fan of this character in particular, but there's lots we need to address, and that character is Jabari. So yeah,
I never said I was a fan of that character, but yes, continue.
Nah, yeah. So he's definitely one of the slimiest characters right now in the show, and he proved that in this episode. So let's talk about what he got up to in this episode, and I have some questions about Jabari. So like at the start of this episode, there's like a lesson where the students bring in their parents. Obviously, Tariq, Tasha is in prison, and he killed his father, so there's nobody there to represent Tariq, but everyone else has their parents with them. And I imagine that Tariq probably feels a little lonely in this moment. But Jabari, because he seems so obsessed with Tariq at the moment, he throws a question at Tariq, and Tariq says something to the extent of sometimes you gotta hold on to the truth, or something like that. So then Jabari and Tariq interact later on after the lesson, and Tariq actually hands him a paper, and Jabari is still under the impression that Tariq might be sleeping with Carrie, because he said that quote, that particular thing about truth, holding on to truth and stuff. Jabari took that to mean as he's keeping a secret, and that he might still be sleeping with Carrie, like he believed last week. Obviously that's not the case, but that's what he believes. So then there's a scene where Jabari is meeting with his agent, and the agent tells him that he loves the new story. And I think that we assume here that what Jabari is sent to the agent is that stuff that he copied from Tariq in an earlier episode. So he's sent that to his agent, and the agent loves the new story. The publisher wants it, and the only thing is, the agent tells him that he needs an ending, like a proper ending for it, and Jabari doesn't seem to know how it ends, right? So then later on, Jabari is at his desk, and he reads Tariq's paper, and there's a part where Tariq is talking about like getting with a woman who has a square boyfriend, and he says that the boyfriend chose him over the other man, And Jabari ends up like getting so mad in that moment that he snaps his pencil, because he takes it to mean that, you know, Tariq is talking about him because he thinks it's about Carrie, when in actuality it's about Lauren. So yeah, that happens, and then later on, Jabari follows Tariq off campus, and you know, he believes that Tariq is about to go meet Carrie, but instead, he witnesses Tariq making an exchange with Drew, and he overhears them actually talking about, you know, the drugs and course correct, and he's about to warn Carrie about this activity, but then he gets an email, you know, as he's texting Carrie, and it's an email from the agent asking about the ending. And then Jabari kind of like wipes away the text that he was writing to Carrie in that moment. And then, you know, later on, we see that he's struggling to write a chapter. I believe it's chapter 9. And he takes another glance at Tariq's paper. And then he also picks up his phone, and he goes to the app store and he searches for course correct, and he downloads the app. And that's sort of where, you know, Jabari's story ends in this episode. So a lot of juicy stuff in there, of course, but I want to ask you guys, you know, what do you think about Jabari's actions throughout this episode, and what do you think is coming next, like after he, you know, downloaded that app and stuff? So Dana, do you have like any theories about that?
This whole thing, this sequence to me was slightly funny. Well, like he was getting in his feelings again.
Yeah.
In the whole paper, that was so funny. But in regards to him downloading the app, this was when I was like, ooh, I got a little excited. This is when, for me, things kind of went from being to like really picking up, and me being really, really interested in the next episode to see what was going on and how this would all work out. I think that he knows that it's not really for classes. So I don't know if this is going to be, he doesn't know who's really involved. So my whole thing was, I was confused as to whether he was just that naive and he really just thought, you know, this was something involving school, or he was going to wallow in his sorrows and get some drugs. So I'm interested in how this is going to work out. I'm interested in who's going to be the delivery person. Like if it's Tariq or who else. This is going to be really, really interesting. And I wonder if he's going to use this information. I don't feel that it is going to be something to turn a student in. I feel that he's going to use this information to put in his story.
Yeah.
Because as we all know, he's still suffering with the writer's block. He does not know exactly where the ending of the story is going to be. So I find that this is where things are going to really start to pick up, either for his story or either in just his continued anger lobbied at Tariq.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And just to double back to, you know, what we were talking about last week, Dana, because like, you know, we were saying that you know, the whole relationship kind of thing between Jabari and Carrie is a little juvenile, but and you know, that we were kind of tired of it, but the fact that they went this route in this episode, that kind of like it was way more interesting, and that's kind of what we were asking for last week. Like, we want to see more layers to these characters, and that's what we got, you know, in this episode. So I quite enjoyed, you know, seeing that.
I don't know about you, but I kind of felt that the story that he was trying to write or steal or was inspired by was kind of turning into like a male version of The Coldest Winter Ever. That book.
Oh yeah.
That was like the only thing I could. It was like, oh, well, this is the male version. Okay.
Yeah, you're right about that, and it's funny you say that, because there's a sequel to that book coming out now. So that's interesting.
Yes.
Maybe
after like 20 years, we finally got it.
Maybe Jabari wrote that.
Ha.
But yeah, Rich, how about you? like, what's your thoughts on Jabari's actions throughout this episode, and what do you think he's gonna do next?
Well, let me start by saying that I was thoroughly entertained with this episode. But by far, in my opinion, one of the best that they've had so far this season. Um, as for this character, no, he's not my favorite character on the show. Let's clarify that right now. If anyone has been listening to the show, they know I'm not a fan of this character. But I will say I appreciated that they kept him consistently slimy from one episode to the next. Um, I laughed that he has this obsession with Tariq, and he still believes that Tariq is the one that's messing around with Carrie. So that was funny to see. Um, but it's just you know, in terms of how all of this went down, and with him, finding out about course correct. I do agree with what Dana said. Obviously, this is to get information. I mean, the thing is this: it is obviously to get information for his book, but it's also because he wants to catch Tariq and wants to expose Tariq because he thinks that Tariq is the one that's been messing around with Carrie this whole time. And you know that because of how jealous he is, just how much he reacts to this whole situation with her being involved with a student. So, it's kind of funny that he does not suspect anyone else. It's just it has to be Tariq because he's seen her having a conversation with Tariq. It's just funny the psychology of him being obsessed with Tariq as a person, and I can't wait to see when he finally finds out it isn't Tariq and what the consequences are going to be for messing around with Tariq this whole time, because that's coming. Is it going to happen in the next 2 episodes? I have no idea, but it's going to happen, I would guess, sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Oh yeah, there's definitely going to be some consequences involved. But I want to also ask you, like, do you think Jabari, like, because obviously he's done some like really questionable things throughout these episodes, but do you think his character is redeemable? Like, do you think there's a chance that things could turn around for the character and he becomes likable again? What would you say about that, Dana? You're muted.
I'm muted. Sorry. My issue. The thing is I would love to know if he. I think he would have a better opportunity of just writing about a teacher obsessed about a student who thinks he's going his I don't know, girlfriend, non-girlfriend, other person. It just seems, that right there is, I'm screaming. I'm like, that's your story. Stop trying to steal other people's stories. This right here. But I think he is still redeemable if he doesn't do anything crazy. If this doesn't go like full Fatal Attraction, he'll be fine. I think. But you also have to remember the fact that he's plagiarizing. Maybe he could come back from that by figuring out his own ending. That would be nice, but he hasn't killed anyone, so that's good. So I think that he is redeemable from that aspect. The plagiarism part, not so much. This also makes me kind of question his first book a little bit. Like, was he just really suffering from writer's block and this is a one-time thing? Or did he go about, plagiarizing little things here and there in his previous book?
Yeah. I think if I remember correctly, he used Carrie as like an inspiration for that first book, right? Or something. Yep. So it seems like he's the type of writer who really needs like a real life kind of inspiration to get out his material. And I mean, there's a blurred line there because sometimes it actually is good when writers use real life influences and stuff. But in this case, we've seen that he's done it the wrong way because he's actually full on plagiarized. So that's the bad way to go about it. But yeah, I mean, that first book, maybe we'll learn more about it. I definitely want to see like more of this whole Jabari as a writer story, kind of play out more, because I find it much more interesting than like the the sexual stuff. So so yeah, let's see where that goes. But I do think the character is redeemable, because even though, you know, he's a slimy character, I feel like there's room for the character to grow. And I feel like Tariq is going to be, you know, Tariq is going to spearhead, you know, his growth as a character, you know, Jabari's growth. So I'm interested to see how that happens.
This kind of made me wonder one thing with the course correct.
Mhm.
If he does find out what it's really about, what's really going on, and who's behind it, if he will use that to blackmail Tariq
Yeah.
in order to further himself. So I really wonder how that would play in, and if
Yeah.
that will
That's
help
something
him to the window. Yeah.
that's really something that could happen. Like, maybe if he learns, you know, how it works and everything, he could, like, that's something he could use against Tariq, and he could even, like, force Tariq to write the book for him or something at that point. You know?
Oh, whoa. Wow. That'd be something else.
Yeah, that would be interesting. But Rich, would
Same
you?
thing with the other teacher. Remember the other teacher who was also a dealer?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You mean like the one in Power, like the previous season of Power?
Yeah, and the previous at the other school that Tariq was in during Power.
At Choke or whatever.
Yeah. Remember he was
Yeah.
like the white guy, and they arrested him and
Yeah.
in.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that was interesting. But yeah, Rich. So two things, I guess. So first of all, do you think Jabari's character is redeemable? And also, you know, what do you think he might do about course correct?
I think Dana's theory about blackmailing Tariq is a very good theory as to what is going to happen, because, you know, it kept alluding to in this episode, like in the very beginning of the episode, saying that, you know, Tariq has a secret. He's trying to find out what the secret is, and Tariq does not trust him. As he said, you know, I like how they threw that little line in there when he asked, "Did you read the book?" Well, if you read the book, that you know that you should trust nobody, and I have to go to another class, because remember, this is the same teacher. You know, they were taking digs at him before when they know that he wasn't reading the book, wasn't doing the assignment. So I'm glad that he reversed that on him when he asked him that question about revealing more information.
Yeah.
So I do think the blackmail thing is more than likely what's going to happen, because he wants a confession, I guess, that Tariq is messing around with Carrie. So that makes sense. But to answer the question of, is the character redeemable? For me personally, I don't believe he is redeemable, because we've seen countless episodes where he does questionable things that he should not be doing as a teacher. Whereas, you know, with Tariq, you know, I think we can all agree that, you know, we didn't really like the Tariq character that much in the last season of Power. Now, I very much am rooting for the Tariq character. I don't have any negative thoughts whatsoever, you know. So, I mean, obviously, it takes time, you know, with the character to see them evolve, and eventually you understand their perspective and everything like that. With this character, like I said, with the remaining 2 episodes of the season, I don't think it's possible for him to be redeemed unless his story is continuing into the 2nd season, and we don't really know how that's going to play out yet, you know, because we have to see what happens in the next 2 episodes. But I would say, for me personally, right now, he's done a lot of dirty things. The plagiarizing, I think, especially, is, you know, that's a low blow. But all of this because he is obsessed with Tariq, and he is obsessed with his ex that he is trying to still get back with. So I feel like when people who clearly know that they are in a position of power abuse those powers, and, you know, sleeping around with students and stuff like that, there got to be some consequences for that. You know, there's a lot of shows where you see there are consequences for this type of things. So I don't really think he is redeemable. But again, we'll see if they can convince me in the remaining episodes of this season.
Well, I had another theory. Sorry for theorizing, but I felt that what if instead he uses Tariq to find out who actually is sleeping with Carrie if it's not him?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a possibility. I feel like that's gonna come out anyway. So yeah, but it's all about how it comes out, I guess. And yeah, Tariq could very well be the reason it comes out, I guess. But what was you gonna say, Rich?
Oh no, I was gonna say, yeah, I agree with that. That's possible also. It really depends. They have a lot of different directions they can go in terms of what's going to happen when he finds out. Again, I feel like this is all. It's not really so much about Tariq. It's just the only reason why the obsession is there is because he thinks that Tariq is messing around with Carrie. So I'll be curious to see what happens once he finds out the truth that it's not Tariq and it's actually Zeke. So we'll see.
Yeah, we shall see. There's 2 episodes left, so I'm sure we're gonna get some answers very soon. So let's move on, because a lot happened in this episode. A lot of juicy stuff. And because of that, I'm actually gonna get to Tariq next, because the thing is, the way this episode was structured, it's I have to kind of talk about Tariq before I talk about the other people, because it's so woven together kind of thing. So I'm gonna go through Tariq and we'll have a discussion about him, and then we'll move on to some of the other aspects that impacted what's gonna happen. So as for Tariq, so at the start of the episode we see that Effie makes a return on campus. I got her name right? Effie?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just checking. So yeah, Effie makes a return on campus, and she interrupts a deep conversation between Tariq and Lauren, and and after Lauren leaves, she kind of makes a proposition with Tariq. She says she has some coke to move, but Tariq isn't too interested at that point. And then later on, Tariq gets a visit from a returning character, and that character is of course 2-Bit. 2-Bit is asking to collect on the debt that Ghost has for him, because Ghost kind of promised him some money in season 6 of Power at the end. So he wants 25k basically from Tariq, and obviously Tariq is panicking because he doesn't have access to that kind of money, because he can't even get the trust fund yet and stuff that his dad left for him or whatever. So yeah, this leaves Tariq in a sticky situation, because he has to come up with that money if he wants 2-Bit to leave him alone. And I, at the back of my mind, I was thinking how is Effie and 2-Bit just allowed to walk on campus? But I guess they have an excuse this week because it's homecoming and there's so many adults around at that point. So I guess anybody can just show up at this point. So fair enough. They kind of have an excuse this week, so we won't rip them a new one for that. But but yeah, that was definitely interesting scene. With 2-Bit and everything. So then Tariq decides to, before that actually, Tariq actually calls his mother, and he talks about needing the money and everything. He's reluctant to say what he needs it for, but she ends up giving him some advice, and he actually asks her how she was able to trust his father. And Tasha says something interesting. She says that the key was to get him to trust her, basically, and then she could kind of control him, I guess. So Tariq takes that advice, and then he decides to actually sleep with Effie. He ends up chatting her up and everything, sweetening her up. And he sleeps with her and tells her that they're gonna sell the coke together, and from that point on they get pretty intimate and everything. So yeah, they go into business together, and Effie goes around campus selling the drugs and everything. They manage to make over 50k in sales, and Tariq is finally ready to pay off 2-Bit during the basketball game, actually, where Zeke is going to be playing. But on his way to to pay off 2-Bit, he notices that he's being followed by a suspicious looking basketball fan. So yeah, we're gonna talk more about that later, of course, where that guy came from. But let's focus on Tariq for now. So Tariq gets 2-Bit to meet him at the pool, and he runs to the pool area, and the killer follows him, and they get into a tussle. Tariq is almost stabbed, but 2-Bit comes in and saves Tariq and drowns the killer in the pool. Tariq pays off 2-Bit, but 2-Bit actually asks for more money for saving his life, and Tariq is able to steal the killer's phone, and he sees the messages asking if the job is done and everything. 2-Bit actually takes the phone and texts back the person with a photo of the body and everything like that. So then Tariq goes back to the basketball game, and he sits with the Tejada family, and when Tariq actually goes to sit with them, he notices Kane is acting funny, and I have to applaud Kane's acting here, because like just seeing his face when Tariq returns was hilarious. Yeah, like that was hilarious. But yeah, so Kane receives a message about the killer being dead, and he gets up from his seat and leaves, and then Kane calls the phone of the killer, and of course Tariq has it, and Kane actually says, whoever this is, basically I'm going to kill you. He says something to that effect. So Tariq instantly knows who it was, who sent the hit, and he looks at Monet funny, like, because obviously he thinks the hit came from the entire family at that point. So then I guess Tariq knows that he's in a sticky spot, so he actually tells Effie that he can't be with her that night anymore, I guess to kind of get rid of her and get her to safety. So she's salty, and she sees Braden, and she tells him about the whole coke deal, and this is after Tariq already told Braden that he knows nothing about the coke that's being moved on campus and stuff. So she actually goes ahead and tells Braden what happened, and then because she's salty about Tariq cutting her off, I guess. So then Tariq and Braden get into an argument, and Braden confronts him about the lies. Tariq says that his business with Braden is separate from that other deal that he made with Effie, but Braden is upset, and he says that course correct is over. He no longer wants to be a part of it. And then at the end of the episode, Tariq meets up with Monet. Monet makes it clear that Kane was to blame for the hit, and that he's no longer part of the family. And she says that if Tariq goes after Kane, she'll kill Tariq herself, but if Kane comes at him first, then it's fair game. So that raises several questions that we're going to talk about here. So the first question, I guess, is with regards to that scene between Tariq and Braden, do you think Tariq should have just been truthful with Braden, because obviously they're friends at this point, and Tariq should be able to trust him? So I want to ask you guys, do you think that Tariq should have just been truthful and told him everything that happened about 2-Bit coming and asking for the money, and him needing to sell the coke to pay him off, and then also he could have also told him about Riley, because he still hasn't told Braden the truth about her yet, about her being connected to Sax and everything. So do you guys think that Tariq is just making things harder for himself by not telling Braden the truth? So go ahead, Rich, let's hear your thoughts on this.
So it's funny you mentioned those two thoughts, because they are connected, and that's going to lead to the other. I do think he should have been truthful in just telling Braden what was going on. Obviously, he didn't want to worry Braden about the situation, but I feel like if you know that these people can just show up to the dorm at any time, and it's a threat to Braden and him, he probably should have told him what the deal was. Yes, there's this debt that I have to pay from one of my dad's one of the guys who work with my dad. So I had to sell this stuff to pay that debt. I'm pretty sure if he would have said that, but again, Braden asked him at the beginning of the episode if they can just start selling coke again, and he told him no. So yeah, he lied about that whole exchange, and I do think that because of that, at the very end of the episode when they had their conversation, and Tariq was talking about, well, they can still work together. He said no, the business is over. So I guess now Tariq is going to be working for himself by himself, unless he gets other people that he thinks he can trust. But I do feel because he wasn't truthful with Braden, that will lead to Braden going back to Riley now and trying to rekindle that relationship. And who knows if maybe at this point she will be ready to confess what happened with her and Tariq, and vice versa. He can confess where he really was. But I do think that that's definitely going to lead to that right now, because because he wasn't truthful about the whole situation with Effie. So that's going to definitely have consequences on everything. And to answer your question, I do believe he has made it hard on himself, much harder, because he doesn't really tell people. I understand not wanting to trust and tell people what's going on, especially with Effie, because she also was pressing him about what he needed the money for, and he lied and told her, oh, it's to pay the lawyer. So I understand not trusting her, or still being wary on trusting her because of what happened, but he definitely should have been truthful with Braden. That's his boy. That's who he's staying with. So yeah, there's going to be consequences for that. Just a matter of time.
Yeah, because the thing is, like, I understand him, maybe not telling certain people the truth, but I feel like Braden has earned the truth. Like, he's shown that he's loyal and that, he's a good friend and to Tariq and everything. So I'm just thinking, like, your partners, you're in this together, you live together, you might as well just tell him the truth at this point, So that's the way I was looking at it.
Yeah.
But what do you think about that, Dana? And you're muted. Are you there, Dana? Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, my computer would not comply.
Okay.
I feel maybe it's just me, but I always kind of viewed this Braden Tariq as one-sided, where Braden is always the one, that's my best friend. Yeah, I do everything. I do everything for him. And I don't really see Tariq reciprocate that. And you could say, oh, the situation with Riley, but that was only because it was interfering with Tariq and what he was doing. I don't view it as a genuine care for Braden. So I think that the fact that she told him what was really going on, I like to see the fallout between those two, and maybe for Braden to figure things out on his own.
Maybe. I think Tariq was partially right in the fact that to run around on campus for a long time period, not just a one-day thing like they did with the girl for a couple of hours, but to run around trying to sell coke is a wee bit more complicated than them trying to sell weed or any other smaller drug. It also carries a bigger offense, and you need to be really smart about it. And Braden does not seem to come across as the thinker. He is more of the reactionary kind of person. So in that terms, I do feel that Tariq is right, but their fracture in their relationship, I think it's something that's needed right now for the show, and also just for their relationship. A little too much. I see Braden just a little too happy and too eager to always be Team Tariq, and I just don't see that Tariq reciprocates that. So I don't think that even the whole breaking of the friendship even affects Tariq, or will he even think twice about it, and that it's more effective towards Braden. I don't know if this will make things more complicated for Braden in the sense that he's going to try to go and do things his own way, and he doesn't really have that foresight and that ability to think about what he's doing. Because the thing with Tariq is that he, as much as Ghost tried to keep him away from everything, and as much as his mother tried to keep him away from everything, he does have a sort of street smarts, as we all seen in the previous episodes when Braden and his brother was getting beat down in the street trying to sell whatever it was that they was selling. I forgot. So yeah, Tariq does have that kind of street smarts that Braden does not have. So this could end up probably being worse as a whole because Tariq will still be connected to course correct. And Braden and his actions, especially if he teams up with his brother, could bring everyone down. But either way, I'm interested in seeing how this goes.
Yeah. Yeah, and what you kind of said there, ties into the next question I was gonna ask. So basically, like, do you think Braden saying that he's no longer gonna be part of Course Correct will cause problems for Tariq now? So how do you feel about that, Rich?
Well, yeah, that's going to be a very interesting dynamic. I understand that Tariq does not really want to trust anybody fully. So it's going to have some type of consequences. I mean, we'll have to see how it plays out. I mean, in terms of him causing problems, I do think that he's definitely going to try to have another conversation with Riley and see things from her point of view and understand exactly what happened between her and Tariq that night. But aside from that, I don't know if he's going to. I don't believe he's going to expose Course Correct or anything like that. And I don't know if he's actually going to even consider selling the same stuff. I mean, we already know that, as was mentioned in the previous episodes, they show that he's all about selling stuff. He was able to do it when Kane had kidnapped him. So, and he had mentioned again that he liked the ability to make his own money and not rely on the money from his parents. So we definitely know that that character has a future in doing this stuff if he decides to do it. He definitely could go against Tariq, but we'll have to see how that dynamic plays out right now because, again, like you alluded to, you don't want to blow up the spot. And then, of course, you're still roommates with Tariq. So anything that happens, if anybody comes to that place and is looking for Tariq, I mean, if you're there also, well, that's bad for you too. So we have to see how they handle it. But it is a complex dynamic. It's sort of like, Tariq has a lot of people that are against him. And there are some people that are in his corner, but those people can also turn as well. And that's what makes this an interesting show now, because it's not like everybody is rooting for Tariq. Of course, his mom is, but then you had the tease last week, where she, they emphasized that final shot of her in her conversation with Paz. Now, I don't expect her to actually turn on Tariq, but just the whole dynamic of having all these people where you have to question whether or not they are for or against Tariq, this was what makes the show interesting right now.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, you made some points that I kind of want to get back to in a little bit, but yeah, Dana. So do you? I guess you kind of touched on this already, but just to say definitively, like, do you think that Braden saying that he's no longer being part of Course Correct will cause problems for Tariq?
Yes, I hope it does. Storyline wise, we need some problems and some complications. That would be nice. But the whole situation about, remember, with them being roommates, yeah. Braden is also the child of a millionaire who is also, I think, a legacy on the campus, or at least owns a building or something. And we saw previously with that house party. Yep. So the terms of being a roommate, that's not a problem at all. The fact that he even lives on the campus, I was like, why? Okay. But he can easily move out and just live off campus or go back to that, what was it, the fraternity house that he was in when he threw that party? He has options and choices, and he has places for stash houses, so that to me is not a problem. I think it was going to just be more complicated on how he runs the business. Yeah. And getting the word out to say we're no longer together, that's going to be one thing too. So whatever Braden does is going to be associated with Tariq. So if Braden starts slipping up, it's going to reflect poorly on Tariq, even though he's not a part of that group and the I guess group organization anymore.
Yeah, because that's another thing to think about, because you mentioned Braden's parents, and they are very well connected. We've seen that in the past. And that's now something that Tariq might not have access to, because, you know, if he is working with Braden, then Braden's parents can kind of give them like a get out of jail free card almost, because they're so well connected. So the fact that, you know, Braden is stepping away, it's like Tariq can't rely on that anymore. So that kind of makes things, you know, harder for him if he gets discovered. And we saw that, you know, Jabari kind of knows something. You know, he knows something is up now. So, you know, there is that risk of him getting discovered now. So yeah.
Well, not only with that, but also what we'll talk about later on with that whole crime situation.
Yeah.
So he needs that protection.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's getting to the point where Tariq needs, you know, people he can trust. So the fact that, you know, he just kind of like had a fallout with Braden, that doesn't fare well in his favor. So we'll see how that plays out. So the big question regarding Tariq, and, you know, we are going to talk extensively about Kane and his actions in this episode a little later. But, you know, right now I want to ask you guys, because obviously, you know, I already mentioned that, you know, there was a hit on Tariq, and, you know, he finds out that it came from Kane, right? So I want to ask you guys, do you think Tariq will try to clap back at Kane, even though he had that conversation with Monet, and, you know, she said, if you come at him, then I'll kill you. But, you know, if Kane comes at you first, then, you know, you can do whatever. So, like, but do you think that Kane is going to disregard what she said and try to clap back at Kane now? I'll go to you first, Dana. What do you think?
I don't see him going after Kane right now. Maybe in season 2. Well, there's only 2 more episodes, so anything that happens is gonna has to be in season 2, I feel, to get a nice, good storyline worth. But I do think something eventually. I think this will probably be like the showdown for the show. You know how, like, in The Wire, everyone was like waiting for Stringer Bell and Omar to have their big clash. This could be the showdown for Ghost Power Book 2, or whatever order it calls. So not now, but eventually. But, you know, the stipulation kind of was if Jabari goes after him. Not Jabari. I said Jabari. If Kane goes after him first. I do feel that because of how Kane was so randomly disassociated from his family, you know, that he may be in his feelings, and that he may come after Tariq first. And then that could give Tariq the okay to go after Kane. But I don't see that it's going to be Tariq doing anything right now. He has too many things that he has to worry about in this one little moment, that I don't think that Kane is going to be that immediate threat. I do see that Kane is going to be lurking and in the bushes and always watching and plotting, and he is going to strike first. Because he's very upset. You know, he lost his whole family. And he feels that it's all Tariq's fault.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And yeah, we are going to break that down more extensively in just a little bit. But yeah, you make some good points. But Rich, what do you think about that question?
I also agree. I don't think Tariq is going to go after him right away. He has a lot of other things on his plate now, and the fact that he has to continue to pay 2-bit, I mean, he has to do what he has to do to hustle right now. Now, obviously, if somehow Kane interferes with his ability to make money, then it becomes an issue. But I do think what Dana said is right on the money. This is going to be a showdown that they're going to, you know, push out further. It doesn't make sense for them to have a confrontation right at this moment in time. It will definitely keep people watching because they'll be curious to know when it happens. But it's not going to happen, I don't think, within the next 2 episodes. Now, I will say that it is possible for an important character in that Tejada family. It is possible that one of them might get killed within the next 2 episodes, and that may fuel the whole thing between Kane and Tariq. And one prediction that I do want to make, Only because, and this is a prediction. I didn't watch no advanced episodes because we don't get access to these episodes early like that. What I imagine is going to eventually happen down the road is that if there is a Tejada family member that does get killed, it might end up being Diana. And I say that because she is the one with the closest connection to Kane. And if that happens, now you have a serious issue between the family and Tariq. But Kane especially, since that was the one that always was looking out for him, trying to make sure she would put him in good graces with his mom, etc. So if somebody important does get killed, and if it's her, then I immediately believe that Tariq, is going to be a target for Kane 100% without any hesitation.
Whoa, that's a major prediction right there. But yeah, I do agree. I feel like a major character probably is going to get taken out in this season before it's over. So yeah, it's just a matter of who. But yeah, good points overall. There is a lot more to say about this, which we're gonna get to. But before that, I want to ask you guys as well. So a lot of people that I've spoke to have they spoke positively about Effie's return and the chemistry between Tariq and Effie. So throughout these whole 8 episodes, we've been kind of talking back and forth about whether Tariq is going to get with Lauren or if he's going to get with Diana. And in this episode, we see he gets with Effie. So I want to ask you guys, like, do you think this is going to be a long-term thing now between them? Obviously, based on the conversation Tariq had with his mother, it might not be 100% genuine on his end, but because they have such good chemistry on screen when they are together and stuff, do you think that this is going to get a lot more serious between them? So I'll go to you first, Rich. What do you think?
I personally think it is going to get more serious. I know he had that conversation with Tasha, and she was alluding to the fact that that she got Ghost to trust her. The thing is that Tariq does not. I don't feel as though he fully trusts Effie at this moment in time, and obviously because of what happened at the end of the episode and how he treated her at the end, I think there is definitely some distrust there. But I feel like they can talk that out and work out their differences. I do want to applaud Courtney Kemp and the writers, because this whole season they had you thinking it was going to be either Diana or Lauren, and all along it was the person who we also figured was in the picture, which is Effie. And Effie obviously is one of the best matches for Tariq in terms of their chemistry, as you alluded to, and the fact that they both are doing what they have to do to survive. So their whole conversation in this episode, everything she said, the fact that she saw his gun, the fact that she had a gun, it's just everything is there for them to come together. And I do feel as though when that happens, maybe they will actually announce her as part of the main cast of the show, because they didn't even announce her as being on the main cast for this particular show. It wasn't like she was in the title credits or anything. So I do feel that is the next logical step. But again, we'll see how that relationship progresses. But I do think that is going to become more serious, and I do think that is his number one ride or die, as they say.
That's interesting, because we always thought that Diana would kind of serve that role of being like the ride or die. But now Effie just came in and kind of like solidified herself as that, because it just, the chemistry was just all the way there, like it hasn't been with Diana. So yeah, I could definitely see this being like a long-term thing for sure.
But I do want to say one quick point though, and that is that the advice that his mom gave him, that could still be used on Diana and Lauren, because you saw even after he was messing around with Effie, he was all nice and stuff with Diana when he came to the game.
Oh yeah.
So obviously, he's still going to be flirtatious to a degree, but we'll have to see how far he intends to go with any of these relationships, because he's definitely made a lot of mistakes with how he has reacted to some of the things he's done with these women. But I think Effie is by far the one who he should be with, and more than likely going to be the one he ends up with, if I had to make a guess.
Okay. So what about you, Dana? What do you think about Effie and Tariq? Like, do you see this having a long term, impact?
Yes. Yes. I thought it was really interesting that he gave that they had Tasha gave the advice about how to basically get someone to trust you, and that's how you're able to use them right before the whole Effie situation happened. I do feel that that is what he's doing, because again, we all thought that the love interest was going to be the other two and the other girl, and it was not. And so I really like what they're doing with this. I do feel that she could be the ride or die. The whole situation also with Braden, it knocks him out of the picture and puts her. Who is to say that Effie and Tariq are not going to be, say, Ghost and Tommy in this whole situation? It could happen. They seem to work really well together. She knows just as much about the business, maybe more, and she's able to help him. And I think that this could be a dynamic that really continues throughout the series. I like it.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, I kind of agree with what you guys said. And I do think this isn't going to be the last we see of her. That's for sure. Because it was just like too good a chemistry between them. So she will be back. And yeah, I definitely feel like this could be the new Tasha and Ghost. So we'll see how that plays out, and also we'll see what happens with the other two girls that Tariq has been flirting with. But let's move on to another character who a lot of interesting things happen to in this episode, and that is Drew. So first of all, Drew is on campus, of course, because he comes to the basketball game with the whole Tejada family to support Zeke. So after the game, which Zeke actually wins, like the team wins and everything, after the game he hits up the club with Everett and his other friend from the team. And Drew is actually trying to find Everett, but Everett, he's basically ducking Drew's calls, because when he's around the team, he feels like he has to hide who he truly is, and he can't be seen with a man, in an intimate way or whatever. So Everett is trying to hide from Drew, but Drew calls Zeke directly to find out where he is, and Zeke invites Drew to come to the club that they're at. So Drew then pulls up at the club, and he sees that Everett is dancing with a woman, and that is the woman that basically Zeke's friend invited Everett to go and dance with the woman and everything, and of course he was a bit uncomfortable about that, but he did it anyway. So Drew sees him with the woman, and then Everett sees Drew looking at him, and then he just walks away. Drew follows him, and they have a conversation about Everett hiding who he is and everything, and this kind of like leads them to talking about like their families and stuff, because Zeke actually leaves, he ends up leaving the club, and they follow behind him, but they're also having a discussion about their family. And Drew is basically saying that his family wants him to be something that he's not, and Everett is kind of asking him to explain more, and he just says basically they want me to be like them, and that's it. He leaves it there. So when they get around the corner, they see that some thugs are jumping Zeke and his friend. So Drew springs into action to go and help out and everything, and he sees that it's the thugs from their hood or whatever that that Kane usually deals with. And obviously they're mad because Kane actually went to them to get the hitman to kill Tariq, but the hitman ended up dead. And I guess that guy was somebody close to the gang leader or whatever.
Yep. That's exactly.
Yeah. So he basically holds a gun to Zeke's kneecap, basically threatening to end his career in sports, with one shot basically. Drew tries to talk him down from doing that. Things get heated, and Drew ends up basically beating the guy up, beating the thug up and everything. And he's so in the moment that he just keeps hitting him, and Everett sees this, and I guess this is the moment where Everett like really learns who this guy is, and what him and his family is about. And it kind of shakes him up, and he runs away and everything. And Zeke isn't too happy either about the situation, it seems. So yeah, it kind of ends like that. The thugs retreat, of course. And yeah, it kind of ends like that. So later on in the episode, Drew actually visits Kane at where he's been staying with the girl and everything. That's a pretty funny scene, when she's trying to hide him, but then she ends up showing him anyway. She moves the door and he's behind there. But yeah, so Drew basically tells Kane he's got to handle the situation. He reassures him that Monet doesn't know that it was all because of him. So yeah, he basically just tells him to body the thugs, like get rid of them and just make it right basically. And then when Drew actually talks to Monet at the house, he kind of covers for Kane at first. He doesn't let on that he knows it's all about Kane and everything. But what happens is Tasha actually calls, because there was a scene earlier, of course, where Tariq tells Tasha that someone's trying to kill him, and Tasha ends up calling Lorenzo Tejada in prison and everything with the burner phone. And based on that, Lorenzo Tejada calls Monet, and they exchange information because he's trying to find out what's going on. And that's when Monet kind of learns that Kane must have did something to kind of set these chain of events off. So she knows that Kane is involved now, and she knows that Drew kind of covered for him. So she goes to talk to Drew again, and she actually admires that he tried to look out for Kane. And that he kind of because she was angry at Drew at first, if you remember. So she admired that he took the heat for Kane and everything, and that he took it upon himself to visit Kane and get him to kind of like diffuse the situation and fix things. So she admires that trait in him, and she kind of alludes to the fact that she wants him to step up and become more of a key player in the family based on his actions. So yeah, I guess that leads to the question. Obviously we're going to talk more about Kane in a little while, but let's focus on Drew for now. So how do you guys think this is going to fare for Drew moving forward? Do you think that Monet is going to be expecting a lot more of him now, especially with her disowning Kane from the family? And do you think that he's going to be able to cope with this new responsibility that Monet seems to be putting on him? And then also, how do you think it will affect his relationship with Everett? So I'll go to you first, Dana. What do you think of Drew in this episode and everything that I just mentioned? Hello?
Sorry, I was double muted.
Oh.
This made me feel really sad for Drew. I wanted him to just run away and never come back, because this is something where he's not a drug dealer. This is not something that like Kane, where it's in his heart and it's his passion. and that he can, do with gusto and he wants to do. So I thought that this was just something that's just sadly misplaced for him to go through. In terms of everything that happened, I do feel that Monet is going to kind of force everyone to step up. I don't understand the actions with Monet now trusting Tariq and basically putting Tariq in Kane's spot. Guess I will talk about that later. I feel that that is just odd, and out of character, especially from someone that we've seen who's been so paranoid from episode 1. But this will now shift the weight of everyone else in the family, and they will have to step up now as well, and they will have to carry on this extra load. As much as I want Drew and Everett to just be okay and be happy, and for Drew to just be like, hey, I'm gay, accept it and live life and be happy and normal, that is not something that is plausible for everyone, as he clearly stated when he was in the car. Not in the car, when he was right outside of the party. This is just not something is something that can happen. I don't see that this is a relationship that is going to last, especially in season 2. I do see that this is going to be something where they're gonna just end up drifting apart. It's sad and unfortunate, but Drew has these now new responsibilities. Plus, on top of that, he's hiding who he truly is. He's not able to fully love Everett the way that he wants to love Everett. And this is going to cause just too much of a stress and struggle, and it's too much for Drew and overall. So, I don't know. I'm kind of torn between whether or not Drew can step up mentally, or this will cause him to crack under all of the pressure. And something just may happen to him, or he may end up doing something harmful to himself. Really. I don't know. I'm interested to see how this will go. I do hope that he is able to stand up to Monet, and that he is able to live the life that he wants to live, and not have to really do any of the drugs, because it doesn't seem like he wants to. So we'll see. I don't know. This is the one storyline that kind of stumps me in terms of where I have theories and see where this can go.
Okay, and how do you feel about it, Rich?
So in regards to Everett, I do see that Drew, of course, will try to reconcile, try to reach out to him and explain. But I do agree that it's going to be a very complex situation. And yes, they could drift apart. But I will say, if for any reason he is able to reconcile with Everett and they continue on their path together, I do think inevitably what's going to happen is Everett may be the one to get killed in all of this. Now, obviously, we'll see what happens, because I mean, but it is going to have some dire consequences for Everett if they continue to have a relationship. Now, in regards to Drew and him stepping up, I do agree that everybody's going to have to step it up now, and the fact that he took a leap in this episode proves to Monet that he definitely is capable of being a leader. The only issue is that, you mentioned that he had told Kane to kill those GTG boys. And obviously, Kane did not kill the leader of that group. So they very well may believe and think that, so he actually did listen to his brother, and he did what he said he was going to do. But that could come back and bite him later, because Monet thinks that he told Kane to do this and Kane did it. So that definitely is going to have a consequence later on down the road. I'm not sure who it's going to impact in terms of if somebody gets killed, but it's definitely going to have an impact on that relationship and how they would view Drew as a leader and how he delegates orders. But for right now, I think it's going to be a lot of struggles for him moving forward. Obviously, we know that he's not really about this life. He has a lot more things that he can do. He's talented in a lot more ways. He has skills, etc. So we'll have to see how this all plays out. But obviously, going to get very complex for him moving forward now that they believe that he is capable of being a leader. So we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think he's gonna be put under some serious pressure now, because with Kane out of the family picture, basically he's gonna have to kind of like become like the man of the house almost now. So Monet is gonna be expecting a lot more from Drew, and he made it clear in this episode when he was talking to Everett that he doesn't want this. Like, this isn't what he's about. So I think it's gonna come down to like he's gonna have to make a decision. Like, there's gonna be a moment where he has to choose between his family and or Everett and the life that he wants. So he's gonna have to like choose between those things, and who knows what kind of situation that will be, whether it will be a life or death situation, or if it's just a matter of him just randomly deciding to make that decision. But that's something he's going to be faced with. And also, like you just mentioned, there could be death involved as well. So if that's the case, then if something happens to Everett, maybe I don't think he's going to be able to live that down. I think that's going to really impact him mentally, to the point where he might just make a rash decision to leave the family or whatever. So it's going to be interesting to see how he copes with that pressure now moving forward. But yeah, definitely some interesting storytelling with Drew, I think. So yeah, but so let's move on to Kane now. And I don't need to recap everything that happened, because we've already kind of touched on a lot of it. But basically, we know that he was the one that went to the gang member to put a hit out on Tariq. So they sent the gang member dressed as like a basketball fan to the school and everything, and then he followed Tariq during the ball game, tried to kill him. It didn't work out because of 2-Bit, and then after that, the gang leader was very upset that his gang member died, and basically he kind of tried to take it out on Zeke, and he threatened to also kill Kane and everything. And then after that conversation between Kane and Drew, Kane decided that, well, he said he was already going to do it anyway, but he said that he's gonna go and put an end to the gang members. And I want to say this, right? And Rich probably knows what I'm gonna say, but these are the worst gang members I've ever seen in my life. Like,
oh yeah.
Like, where did these guys get their street degrees from? Because it's like they are the worst shooters. Like, it's like he just picked them off with no effort at all. Like, these guys are like the least threatening gangsters in the world. Like, I don't understand. They're like baby gangsters, basically. Because I like the way the leader was acting throughout the whole episode. I thought, wow, like Kane is in some serious trouble, man. But then at the end, Kane just picked off those guys like just one by one with ease. Like, he wasn't even trying. Like, that was like, I feel like it would have been a lot more intense if it was like a proper shootout kind of thing where Kane was under pressure, and then by the end of things, like, it would have seemed like a bigger deal to me. But yeah, I don't want to critique too much because I know people don't like that. But yeah, I just want to say I wasn't happy with how that scene played out. But something interesting happened at the end of that scene, and Kane did not kill the gang leader. Instead, he decided to extort him, and I guess you could say that he's now taking over that gang, in a sense. So that brings in the question: what position does this now put Kane in the future? After Monet has disowned him and everything. So what do you guys think his next move is going to be, and what kind of position does this put him in this story now? So I'll go to you first, Dana. What's your thoughts? You're muted.
I'm always muted. Okay. He is the angry kid who is trying to basically been abandoned. It's kind of sad. He's the angry kid who, because of his actions, has been abandoned, and so now he's going to try to forge his own path, but through anger. Which we learned, remember, during the 50 of power, or that when he was reading that book, the 50 of law, whatever, is not something that you're supposed to do. You never act in anger.
Mm-hmm.
Had a class about that, remember?
Yeah.
So,
The
yay.
48 laws of power.
There you go, 48 laws of power. I keep thinking of the 50 Cent version. This is not going to be an easy road for him. I do see that he's going to try to make his own way. I don't know if he is going to try to. I don't see him groveling or begging Monet to get back in. There was that shot where he was standing outside and Monet was kind of just leering at him from the window with kind of like disgust and anger. So he's going to be really hurt right now. I see him getting probably just establishing his own business, and it would be interesting to see if he tries to go after Monet's contacts and people. I don't really think so, because there is still genuine love there, and that is his mother. So I don't see that, but I do see him trying to take out his entire anger on Tariq. And so remember, we had the conversation before. Like I said, he is going to strike first, and I think he is going to build himself up that way. He's already proven. Now, even though those gangsters were just awful, he did prove himself to be a really good shooter and a good planner of how to get rid of people in the competition. I remember also, I think it was like the first episode when he went after the other rival gang because they was on his turf. So
yeah,
he knows what he's doing. He has the smarts behind it. I just see this being one big clash against Tariq. I don't necessarily see him trying to take out Monet or anybody else, because that's his family. But he's going to direct all of his anger towards Tariq, and he is going to probably be in his feelings right now for a while, and he's going to just start building up his connect and see what he can do in order to take Tariq out.
Okay. And how about you, Rich? What position does this put Kane in now?
Well, let me start by saying Woody McClain is an excellent actor. He's done an excellent job as Kane. He was excellent in the Bobby Brown movie also. So I'm glad that they are giving him a lot more material to work with. I think that what happened with this character in this episode, it is a perfect representation in the theme of the show, which is everybody is out to get power, and they will do whatever they need to do to get that power. So him recruiting the GTG leader, yeah, I guess that makes sense in the context of what was going on. I do agree, Gary, that the gang is a little, yeah, they're definitely one of the worst gangs that I've seen in quite a while. But and obviously, Kane is very ballsy to think that you can recruit this guy and then he might not try to retaliate later. But I guess Kane feels, well, I can kill him at any point in time, and that's why he says he's just going to leave him off as a pawn that he can use for whatever means he needs to use. But I don't think that GTG member is going to be around for too long, because he can kill that guy at any point. And if that guy does decide to try to, go against him again, say that Kane starts to recruit more people, and that guy tries to align himself with the others that he recruited. I just feel either way that character is expendable now. So it's only a matter of time before he is taken out. We'll see when that happens. But in terms of the character Kane, what's next for him? The trailer next week just shows that he's out, basically he's running the streets right now, doing stuff all over the streets. I do agree that it would make sense for him to continue to go after Tariq, but I mean, I don't know yet if he's going to make that a top priority or if he's going to focus on building up his credibility on the streets, doing what he has to do under his own name, and then go after Tariq. I mean, it can go in any direction. But I will say that one thing that they introduced in these episodes so far this season, you recall the episode where he kidnaps Braden and his brother and has them out there working. One thing that I think they are wanting to have the viewer believe is that not only can nobody be trusted, but there are a lot of alliances that can be formed. So we know that Braden was all about that life when Kane had him out there. So if at some point those two characters find a way to work together again, that is something that could definitely happen. And not necessarily to take out Tariq, but again, it's about making money, selling product, stuff like that. So Kane is going to need a lot more people to work for him because he is hot right now, as he said. You know, he goes out and does any type of activity, he's already exposed. So it's going to be very interesting to see how he builds up his little army and what their goals are. But eventually, it all leads back to eventually him having a final showdown with Tariq. But I'm looking forward to seeing how they evolve this character, and I'm glad that he's going to be given a lot more material to work with because, as I said, he's a very good actor. So let's see where it goes from here.
Yeah. And Dana, was
I
you about to?
have a quick question.
Yeah.
It's a really quick question. During that whole collation with the guy that they sent to assassinate Tariq, Kane was involved, no? Or am I confusing characters?
Yeah, Kane was the one who kind of sent
He ordered the hit.
Yeah,
Who killed him? He had to drown him. Yeah, who ordered the hit?
Yeah.
I wonder if Tariq will kind of use that against him in some way to get back at him.
So what you mean, like how would you mean, like, use it against him, as in like the fact that the
bring out evidence, I don't use that against him, or you know, to say that, hey, your son tried to kill me.
Yeah.
Oh well, they are.
Yeah, go ahead, Rich.
No, they've already established that though. When he had his conversation at the end of the episode with Monet.
Like, in a way to like use evidence against him to turn him in. I don't know. I don't see Tariq being someone who wants to get cops involved. I just wonder if they're going to come back to that storyline and have, you know, either Kane or Tariq come back to that thing and see what happens. I don't know.
Yeah, you reminded me of something I was gonna say about that. You know, the fact that kid died in a pool or whatever. Like, why wasn't that a big deal? Like, it felt like that should have been a big deal on the campus. Like, everyone should have been talking about the fact that.
Well, you saw how they wrote it off. They said, "Oh yeah, there was a drunk guy that drowned in the pool."
Yeah, yeah, I know that, but it's like, if I was going to like a school campus and somebody like died, even if the people are saying that he, you know, died and he got drunk and died in the pool or whatever, I feel like that would have been a super big deal, to the point like everyone would be talking about it and like people would be like investigating it. So yeah, like I feel like that was kind of the
investigation aspect.
What was you saying?
No, yes to the investigation aspect. I was saying yes to the investigation aspect.
Yeah.
No to really kids talking about the guy drowning in the pool. Just, if you go with that statement, it seems so insignificant, as opposed to someone tried to kill another student. The guy got his brains bashed in, and then they killed him by dumping him in the pool, by drowning him.
Like,
so I think when I'm in terms of as someone who went to a school that had situations like that, we don't talk about that.
Wow. So people are that desensitized to the point that's not a big deal, that somebody like,
unless it's like a murder. Here's the thing. I went to a college where I don't know if you heard of him, but the Craigslist killer was there.
The what killer?
Craigslist. He was the guy who was killing people off of Craigslist. The Craigslist killer. He was the guy who was killing people off of Craigslist. It was a huge thing in America.
Oh yeah, I remember hearing about that.
I went to college. He went to college and like he tried to kill his first victim there.
Wow.
It was like, oh, okay, that's cool. You just go on about your day. It wasn't really a really big deal. So what I'm saying is, when I went back and I was saying, I wonder if that killing will come back to haunt him, or will come back to be used against him. I meant through the sense of an investigation. Right. I do hope that the school will do an investigation, because here's one thing that was weird to me. There's a difference between here's a guy got drunk and drowned, and then there's a difference between a guy got beaten. It was a blunt force trauma where he got beaten and then thrown in the pool.
Yeah, because Two-Bit hit him with the pole, so there would be some damage on the body.
He hit him with the pole. It would be some damage on the body, or if they would just say, "Oh, he must have hit his head and slipped into the pool." Mm-hmm. So I wonder if they will even go back to that. But yeah. I feel, for me, the fact that they killed him on campus, I'm not sure if there's cameras in the swimming pool area.
Yeah,
but
Tariq
that could also
wasn't.
come into play.
No, they said that there wasn't.
Yeah, he said there wasn't.
Cameras.
There's no. Oh, well, then there you go. Then I guess they just sweep it under the rug.
But
I come back to haunt both of them.
But I do want to add this point real fast. The investigation thing, I think, is going to happen because next week, based on the previews, it looks like they are introducing another character. I don't know if this character is an investigator or not, but it's the actor Alonzo.
Yeah, I remember him. Yeah,
because they showed him and he was talking to the guy. He was talking to the teacher, Jabari. So I don't know if there is an investigation, if that guy is involved. I have no idea, but investigation would make sense to happen, because there wasn't, like you both said, there wasn't really a major reaction to what happened. And yeah, it kind of feels like that because again, and then also in the preview, Tariq said, "Oh, well, now the school is a hot zone." So there may be some type of fallout that they show in the next episode that they just didn't show in this episode. We have to wait and see next week, I guess.
Okay, well, if they're gonna do that in the next episode, then that's cool. I'll let them off.
Yeah.
But yeah, I remember seeing that dude, and I was like, "Wow, is the boys back already?"
Yeah, that's the same actor. Yep. I guess not though. I guess he has to do something in the off season.
Yeah. But yeah, so what was we talking about before that? Kane, right?
Kane.
Yeah. I had something I was gonna say about Kane. Let me think. Oh yeah, so I guess like cause the whole reason, right, that Kane was after Tariq in the first place was because he felt like Monet, doing business with Tariq was kind of like a diversion from them locking down the streets or whatever. He felt like they should keep their business on the streets. So I guess now he's basically going to become the streets. Like he's gonna basically take over, the streets himself. And then if he, like you said, Rich, if he gets enough power in the streets, then he's going to become like a big threat to Monet and Tariq by default. So I feel like maybe Kane might not come back for Tariq right away. I feel like he's just going to focus on building his own kind of organization or whatever, and then he'll try and get back at Tariq in the long run, I think. So he's going to play the long game maybe. But the character I want to bring up next, though, might change things a little, right? So we saw Two-Bit return in this episode, and he obviously he wants money. He just got out of prison, so the first thing you do, it's one or two things is going to be the first thing you do when you get out of prison. We all know what one of those things is, but the other thing is getting money, right? So so yeah, like he's trying to get money, and I guess eventually he's gonna, you know, try and get some sort of control, some sort of power. He may or may not try to reconnect with Tommy down the line. I guess that's something we're gonna have to wait and see. But at the moment, you know, 2-Bit wants money and he wants power, I guess. So I want to ask you guys, like, you know, we saw what happened in this episode where Tariq kind of used 2-Bit, like he led him to the pool area so that he could, you know, be there to help him, you know, during the hit or whatever, when the guy was trying to kill him. So I want to ask you guys, do you think Tariq is going to use 2-Bit now, like continue to pay him and kind of like manipulate him and use him as his equalizer? And do you also think that, you know, 2-Bit might be a threat to Kane in the future? So what do you think of that, Rich?
That's a very good theory. I didn't think about the manipulation part, but you know, listen, this would fall in line with how Ghost acted, and to go to a point that y'all had made earlier on this show about when Tariq doesn't quite trust everybody, or he's out to make sure that he keeps himself secure. That is the same type of way that Ghost operated, where he did not trust everybody and he didn't tell them everything. Only, and especially if there was stuff that was sensitive to him that could harm him, that he would keep it to himself. It doesn't really matter who he hurts in the process. So when I think of his dynamic with 2-Bit, yeah, 2-Bit, from what it looks like, 2-Bit is the one that's muscling him for the money. But it would be interesting to see how he turns that around into a manipulation thing and uses him. Because again, now he knows, like you said, he helped him to get rid of the guy that tried to kill him. So yeah, he could definitely be the one to basically tell him, I'm having this issue with this Kane guy, can you take him out? But again, that goes back to what Monet had said before, about if she ever finds out that he went after Kane, or he had someone go after Kane, then she would come back and kill Tariq. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out, because at this point in time, Monet doesn't know 2-Bit, and the 2-Bit character is back for a reason, obviously to basically get the money that was owed to him from Ghost. So I'm very curious to see how this dynamic plays out. In the last point that I will make, to go to what you said about Tommy returning, I kind of feel like Tommy is definitely returning within these next 2 episodes. If it's not or maybe the finale, to get people interested to see what happens next season. But Tommy is definitely going to return, and when he finds out what's been going on with 2-Bit operating with Tariq, I'm curious how he will respond to that, because Tommy obviously knows Tariq killed Ghost, so it makes this whole dynamic even more interesting when he gets involved in all of this. But for now, I would say I'm very curious to see. I like your theory about questioning the manipulation of 2-Bit, because as a viewer, as I'm watching this, all I'm seeing is now, oh well, Tariq, he better do what 2-Bit says, or else he's in trouble. But I think, yeah, it could become a situation where if he really needs that money, then he may have to do whatever Tariq wants him to do. So we'll see if he uses that to his advantage.
Yeah, and it plays right back into what Tasha told him, right? Like, you get the person to trust you. So if Tariq, you know, keeps giving 2-Bit money, you know, then 2-Bit might start to, you know, become dependent on that and trust Tariq more. And we know Tariq is smart, you know, he's shown that in this season. So, you know, he can, you know, keep charming 2-Bit and put him at ease and make him feel like he's in control of the situation. And then he can easily, you know, just manipulate him into, you know, maybe going against Kane somehow. And maybe 2-Bit won't even know that, you know, Tariq is sending him to contest Kane or something. Like, maybe he asks him to do some separate favor, but he knows that Kane is going to be there or something like that, and then, you know, they get into it. So so it could be as slick as that, you know. So I'm going to be interested to see, you know, what happens with 2-Bit moving forward. And I do think Tommy, like you said, is going to show up in some capacity. So I can't wait to see how that interaction goes if those two characters cross paths. But yeah, Dana, what do you think about 2-Bit? Do you think Tariq might use him, or do you see other things for the character?
Well, I hope they don't kill him off like they did Spanky, just randomly and abrupt. That would be nice. But I do kind of maybe Tariq getting upset and then, could kill him that way. But I do see him sticking around for a little bit. I think what was really interesting was the fact that they had Lunel was Spanky's mother.
Mm-hmm.
And I just really want to see more of Lunel. And there was the scene where he said, don't worry, I got you. And he handed her money. And he kind of did that slick little smile because we knew that he got everyone killed. Mm-hmm. And we knew how grimy he is in actuality. So I thought that was a lovely wink to the camera. And I do want to see more of Lunel just because I just really love Lunel. And it would be great to see, Spanky's mom just in general. And to see if he's somebody, we all know he's not someone who's true to his word, but I just want to see that kind of dynamic. But because of that, I also do kind of feel that we will see more of 2-Bit, that he is here to either service himself or he's here to further the storyline with Tariq, or maybe he's going to end up going with Kane and do that and work for him in some form or capacity. But I do hope that they brought him back for a reason. I am the only person who does not feel with full gusto that Tommy is coming back in this season. Maybe next season. But I don't feel that he's going to make an appearance at all. Sorry.
So what if this happens, right? Picture this. Will you be excited if this happens? So we reached the end of episode 10, Power Book 2. Kane is still alive, and he's got a gang full of Avengers with him, and and he basically assembles everyone, and he's like, yeah, we got a new Connect. So I'm gonna introduce all of you to the new Connect. He's coming all the way from Cali, and then Tommy steps into the room. Won't that make you excited though? If something like that happens, Kane and Tommy getting together.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm gonna be like, oh, that's nice. I don't like it because again, I don't like the fact that his name is Kane. His name should have just been I don't know, Bob or something that's not the same as Kanan. I don't like how they did that, and that definitely makes me not want to see him and Tommy team up. That just makes it worse. No, I don't want to see Tommy. I want this show to really stand on its own. And they've kept evoking the name of Tommy so much that it's okay. Let him go and be happy in California. I want to see his story in California. But I guess, for a finale, in order to get people interested in the Tommy spinoff, even though that's not the next spinoff we're getting, but to remind people, you can have him, say hey, and then quickly leave. Hopefully. I wouldn't be upset, but it's not something I want to see.
Interesting. Because we know the Tommy show is coming up, so I feel like, it will be a nice nod.
Remember, they shifted, though.
They shifted?
We have the Kanan show.
Okay.
Yeah, remember, they have Kanan as the next one.
Oh yeah, I didn't mean it's coming up next. I just meant
then it's gonna be.
It's coming up in January.
Okay.
But yeah, I just feel like it would be a nice nod to what's to come if Tommy shows up, and also it would just get us excited to keep watching Power.
Yeah.
So yeah, I hope it does happen.
The only reason why I believe it is going to happen in some capacity. You mentioned this character too much this entire season for there not to be some type of payoff at the end, even if it's where you see him at the last shot. Either you hear him or you see him, and that's okay. I think that's a high possibility, only because there was no need to keep mentioning him multiple episodes. Tommy is the killer. And then you mentioned his mom in the last episode and all this other stuff. So it would be interesting to see that happen. But they have a lot of material to work with now with the core characters on the show. So it very well might not happen, but I think it's something's going to happen with that to some extent, because it just seems like it is inevitable. He's going to show up at some point in time. It's only a question of when. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see. It's not going to be too much longer now before we find out what's going to happen. But yeah, that was everything I wanted to discuss this week. Is there anything else at all you guys wanted to mention that I might have missed? Anything at all? Rich?
Oh no, I think pretty much you covered all the bases. I thought it was a good episode, because again, it was it was a lot of tense scenes in this episode. So and I was speaking to my my mom and my brother who also watched the show, and they said, oh yeah, they were on the edge of their seat as well. So I think they did a very good job, and they made me curious to see what happens in the next 2 episodes.
Okay, and how about you, Dana? Anything else you wanted to bring up, or any thoughts on the episode as a whole?
Oh, I thought they did a very good job. I thought they did a very good job with this episode. I was very interested. I was intrigued. I want to see more of how they're going to tie this all in within 2 more episodes that we have left. I thought that they did a really great job. And this is also kind of interesting because I remember during the whole Power escapade, no one was really interested in seeing this show. And it seems like there's a massive turnover. Everyone's like, yay! So I hope they keep it up, because this was a good episode.
Yeah, absolutely. They did a great job of turning things around, because a lot of people were negative about Tariq at the end of Power, and nobody wanted to see a Tariq show at all. And I feel like they've now made it interesting. They've made it work. And I wouldn't say that Tariq alone is the most interesting character in the show. I feel like this has a strong supporting cast. There's other characters that I'm interested in aside from just Tariq. So yeah, I feel like that's a really good thing, when there's a strong supporting cast. And also, this was such an action-packed episode, and we didn't even see any of the trial. We didn't see Davis McLean, we didn't see Sax, any of these other characters. So that's pretty interesting. I'm wondering if that means that oh, go ahead, Dana.
No, I was just gonna say, in a weird way, I kind of feel that hampers the show. It weighs it down. That it just becomes this. It feels like an add-on instead of something that's neatly integrated into the show, and I could do without it. I'm fine. So I do hope that they wrap up this whole trial situation, and Tasha and McLean and the other guy Sax, because I'm more interested in the main show. This seems like it's something that's an add-on.
Yeah, I do get that feeling now. After seeing this episode, without those characters, I'm like, okay, yeah, that kind of does slow down the show a bit. When the trial is, and the reason I think that is because the trial is so dragged out. It's like they're trying to make it last to the end of the season, basically. So whenever those scenes come up, it does feel kind of dragged out, it's just taking forever kind of thing. But I do think that characters like Davis McLean are interesting. It's just that the context of those scenes is we could do without them at this point. But what was you gonna say, Rich?
Yeah, I just was going to add that I do agree with what you both said, and yeah, I think it is all so that they have a explosive, perhaps an extended episode 10 where they can just have everything happen. You'll finally get the trial will come to an end, and there'll be some type of verdict, and all this other stuff will happen. But yeah, they definitely I guess they figured they wanted to emphasize and focus on Tariq, what was going on with him on campus this week, and how it's going to impact everything else moving forward. But hopefully, we'll get some answers on all this and more in the next 2 episodes.
Yep. So with that being said, Rich, for me, whenever I see the preview, it goes so fast that like sometimes I miss stuff. But I know you pay close attention to the preview, and we already talked about Kane. In that preview, he said he wants to take over the streets and everything. But was there anything else in particular in that preview that we didn't discuss, or that we should be looking forward to next week?
Well, the main thing is, it's really about Kane. From what we saw, it looked at the end of that preview, it looked like he knocked someone out. I don't know who that was.
Was that Kane?
So we'll find out. Yeah, that was Kane, because I stopped and flash framed it, and there it was him. So I don't know who he knocked out. Maybe it could have been Tariq. It could have been somebody else. We'll have to find out next week. Looks like Tariq will. We still have Jabari trying to get the information he needs to get. They try to keep they revealed a lot of stuff, but the main focus of that trailer was really about Kane and what's going to happen with him next. But there's a lot of other things that they had in there as quick little flash frames. So it's hard to really decipher anything else beyond the things we already discussed. We just have to, I guess, wait and see what all is supposed to happen next week. But and then you saw that Effie had a conversation with Tariq, and that she called Tariq a monster. So the title of the episode next week is Monster. So I guess we're going to find out that Tariq does something that makes him a monster, I guess.
Uh-oh. Yeah, we did have a comment of someone saying that they think Tariq is going to become Ghost next week or whatever. So I think they were saying that about this episode that we just watched, but I do feel like he is becoming more of that character. So go ahead, Dana.
I feel not. I feel in a way he's becoming more like Tasha.
Really?
The whole, remember how maybe it's just me, but I feel that because remember the advice that Tasha was giving him, and it wasn't like, hey, this is what your daddy did, this is what I did, and this is how I got Ghost to respond a certain way. And then remember, it was like he asked her about what did you do with that Angela situation, and she was like, yeah, when he cheated on me, he cheated on the whole family. That whole thing. I do, in a weird way, see him becoming more like Tasha. Yes, the whole show was about Ghost, but Tasha, she did stupid things, but she also acted in a way on her own. If you look at it, she did a lot of different things that maybe was not positive, but she did kind of spearhead her own path in that way. Remember, she's the one who even killed Lakeisha.
Yeah.
So I feel that maybe because of the hatred that Tariq has for his father, yes, you could argue it's going to be ironic that he does become his father, but in a way, he's leaning more towards what Tasha did, and he's going to Tasha and asking for advice about what to do. He's constantly calling Tasha. So I just feel that he may end up becoming more like a Tasha situation than more of a Ghost. Now, they have the same paths and they intersect, but he's taking more of her path and her advice and not saying, what did dad do? He's going and saying, what did dad do to you that you did, in order to reverse the course of what dad did. So that's just how I see it.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good point. I kind of feel like he's it's a mix. Like he's taking traits from both sides. Like so he is sort of becoming Ghost, but he's becoming like an evolved version of Ghost that also, has traits of Tasha too. So I feel like that's kind of like, how the character is developing. But of course, that could change. We could see different things based on what happens next, I guess. But but yeah, I guess we'll see. The next episode, like Rich said, is called Monster. So let's see, what happens to make Tariq a monster, or that could actually be about Kane. Who knows?
Yeah, that's true too.
Yeah. So I guess we'll wait and see. But as always, if you're listening to the show, if you enjoyed it, be sure to leave a comment. You can leave your comments on the YouTube video or on the Coalition website. That's thecoalition.com. Coalition is spelled with a K. But you can listen to the show on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, and yeah, all the main places you find podcasts. And we appreciate all the the support, all the likes, all the subscribes and everything. And definitely keep dropping your feedback to us. We do read all the comments, and we appreciate everyone that we do get. So yeah, thanks for supporting. Big shouts to Robert Silva as well, who always sends in messages and voice notes. We were unable to play the voice note today, but he was very positive about this episode of Power. He loved it, so shouts to him. And of course, Christmas is coming up, so I do want to also wish everyone happy holidays. If you like, even if you don't celebrate Christmas, just happy holidays to you. And if you do celebrate Christmas, then Merry Christmas, happy Kwanzaa and everything as well. And yeah, is Power actually on next week? I have to make sure, because I don't know.
Yeah,
I know. Okay.
Yeah. It's staying on schedule. So the next 2 episodes will be on at the regular time and day.
Okay. So the last episode is going to be like January 2nd, right, or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, we will be back next week to discuss the next episode. But until then, happy holidays and enjoy yourselves wherever you are. And I hope everyone gets the chance to if you can't be with your family, then I hope that you get to connect in some way, whether it's a phone call, a Zoom, a FaceTime, whatever it is. But definitely take some time to speak to the people you love and care for. But yeah, that's pretty much it. So have a nice week, everyone, and we'll be back soon. Peace out.